Hi and welcome back to my channel. This is Maria with myartpixie.com. I'm so glad that you're here. If you're new, welcome. If you have been watching my channel for a while, you'll know that this is my second book review. The first book review that I did was the Everyday Watercolor by Jenna Rainey. If you're interested in kind of checking out that book, you can go watch that video. I'll make sure to put the link so that you can go check that out. Like I said in that video, I think that no matter where you are as an artist, you should always continue to be learning and growing. It's a super important part of an artist's journey and keeping your mindset fresh on new possibilities. I love drawing and painting flowers. It is probably my #1 favorite thing to paint and draw besides pears. And I like to draw pears because of their shape and their different textures and things like that. But generally speaking, I draw flowers all the time. So when I saw this Modern Watercolor Botanicals on Amazon, I was super interested and I wanted to purchase it so that I had it in my book collection. So this is all about botanicals, but I also picked it up because it says a creative workshop in watercolor, gouache, and ink, and I love all of those things. So I felt like this was the perfect book for me. It is by Sarah Simon, and it says, "From the Mint Gardener, Sarah Simon." I also loved how this was made as well. It just seems so rich and kind of fancy, and just something that I think would be great to have as a part of my collection when it comes to books and things that I have about watercolor and pen and ink and mixed media. I love this gold binding, these gold accents on the corners here, and then the same in the back, and beautiful images as well. So when you open it up, you can see straight away the beautiful illustrations and watercolor here. And I would say Modern Watercolor Botanicals, because if you think about, way back when botanicals were drawn in such a way that you could tell, okay, this is totally dated. This way, the foliage and everything is kind of brought up to date, brought up to speed. So you can see here with the girls behind there with their jeans on and everything. So it's published by Page Tate and Company. So here is the contents page. Lots of things that she covers. We've got tools, preparing to paint, your basic watercolor techniques, color expression, where she's going to go over the color wheel, how color harmony works, the psychology behind color as well, and then putting a painting together. So coming up with the composition, finding inspiration, and then actually working with the botanicals. And then she has, and then she has 16 projects that you can do. I love that. So you can kind of see how thick the book is, and you can work right inside of the book. So super cool. And she goes through everything from like building your skills, working on your strokes, to kind of putting more of those botanicals together. So of course there's an introduction section where you can get to know Sarah and how she began and what she's hoping to do through this book. Of course, there's a foundation section where she goes over, the basic tools, essentials, nice haves. So these are the essentials. These are the things that you could have if you wanted to expand your set. She goes over brushes, the paper, pens and pencils, which, if you know, that's what I love to use. Micron pens and things like that whenever I am working with my watercolor. So it's right up my alley, and she even has micron pens right there. Colored pencils as well. If you don't know, I love to add colored pencil to my watercolor washes, which that's where I feel like it's more mixed media than when you start to mix those together. And then gouache as well. She does a great job of explaining how to get started, how to mix, and how to get those really nice washes and things like that. Basic techniques. So everything from wet to wet in wet, wet on dry, and then glazing, blooms and blotting, just all kinds of different things. And then the color expression. So this is where she's really going to go over color theory and how that works. So if you're interested in color harmony and you know, using complementary colors and things like that, this would be a great book for you to learn more about how that works. The color psychology. So for those of you who don't know, I do teach a class on this, and I talk about this as well. But red is about confidence, power, passion, aggression. Orange is about friendliness, warmth, energy, adventure. Yellow is happiness, friendliness, optimism, warmth, inspiration, and so on. So it's really neat how she incorporates that into her book as well. And then composition. And she's got these great photographs and illustrations throughout the book that really explain, you know, everything that's going on in the pictures. In the pictures. And then it starts with the projects. Now this is what I mean, how you can work right inside of the book itself. This is not watercolor paper, so just keep that in mind. But you can actually, you know, apply your wash right here, do your wet on wet, your graded wash, your blotting. You can do everything right here. Just keep in mind that this is not watercolor paper, but you'll still get similar results. It's just not going to be on watercolor paper. But she tells you what tools to use, what paint palette you're going to need, and then what techniques that you're going to be covering. Okay, so the next thing she's going to teach you how to play. And I think that is a great approach to watercolor. So once you've learned the basics, then you can break the rules and have fun. Knowing that you have a good understanding of the foundations, then you can really start to kind of play around and do some fun stuff with what you have learned. So here she's showing you how to do a wash, and then it's pretty much step by step how you can add different squares to come up with a fun painting at the end. Yes, so here is where she goes through the swatch charts, and I think this is very beneficial as a watercolorist. Obviously, when I'm working with pen and ink and I might want to do a ink and wash, it's still something that I want to reference. You know, do I want to use Rose Madder, or do I want to use Brilliant Red to get that bloom or that flower that I'm working on? So understanding color recipes, which is basically your swatch chart, is good to have. And you guys know, if you've been watching my channel, then, you know, making sure that I have, you know, swatches and everything is super important to me so that I can see the colors that I am working with. So it's just something to put into practice as a beginner and as a seasoned artist. I think too, and I could be wrong, but I think she actually teaches you how to create your own palette, so that you can come up with your preferred palette that you're going to use for whatever art that you're working on. Maybe it's not florals. Maybe you're going to be working on, you know, seashells or landscapes or something like that. So you're going to want a palette that makes sense to whatever art that you're doing. Boundaries and bleeding. So just experimenting with that technique and how that can work to your advantage. These are like those happy little accidents that make your watercolor more interesting and have a lot of dynamic going on. So even though these bleed together, it actually makes a beautiful work, especially if you're working on like a landscape or something like that and you want those colors to blend. It's just learning how to blend and what happens when you blend like a green and a brown together, for example. And then simple strokes, shapes, marks, and lines. And here again, she's got a chart that you can, you know, actually work through those. And then she also does the gouache chart as well, and a colored pencil chart. Now, obviously, your pen and your colored pencil are going to go great on this paper. I think gouache will too, and even the watercolor will be fine. But I love that you can actually work within the book, which I think is why it's coiled, because once you start working in here, it will get thicker. The book will itself. Okay, and then compound strokes. So this is when you are adding pressure, which is something that you would use in botanicals and foliage and flowers and things like that a lot. But I could see you using this same kind of pressure, like if you were working on like the waves at the beach or something like that. So pressure points, also different, you know, petals and leaves. This was probably one of my favorite finds that I found in her book. I strongly believe that using the Analogist colors makes for strong work, and she explains all of that. But this is kind of where you've passed from like foundation to, okay, now let the fun begin and let's get into some, you know, bigger things. So she talks about that. She talks about single layer. And she does have these why art moments in here, which I think are super smart. It just helps you learn as a artist, you know, why are you doing this? What is your why, you know, behind art making? So super cool that she adds those in as well. And then she goes into complementary colors and how they can work together. And keep in mind, like you're continuing to use a wash, a wet and wet. You're continuing to use those things as you build on the next, you know, lessons. Layering. So this is where you're going to get your glazing techniques. And this is where you add ink to your watercolor, which is something that I do all the time. So knowing that the pencil and the ink was in this book really resonated with me as well. Watercolor ink and gouache. And then a wreath that she goes over, layered in watercolor and gouache. So again, she kind of goes back to that mixed media, which is exactly what I do. So this is an opportunity for me to learn more, and I just love that. So ink and watercolor, draping botanicals. And I love the pin, and I love the flowers that she does in here. Love that. Yeah, and she just continues to kind of work on those. This is layering with gouache. And then I think we're just about done. Yeah, and then back here, she actually has some, the work from the lessons back here. So she actually gives you the worksheets that you can work on, which is a lot like what I have done with my, my watercolor kits that are available on my Etsy shop. So I thought that was super cool too. But so I have some of these kinds of things available on Etsy where you can purchase them, and then it gives you paint dots, and then you can apply the paint to the drawing that's already there. So anyway, she's got all of these in the back. So if you're like, oh, I don't know if I'm going to be able to draw all of that, she supplies that for you. So that's super cool. Also, and I don't know if she says this, but you could take one of these, use a light tracing board, and you could trace this onto watercolor paper, and then you could work with these directly onto watercolor paper. She probably says that, but I just haven't read that far. So there you have it. It's a really nice book if you want to do some lessons. It's almost like you're getting a private lesson, or you're purchasing a lesson online kind of thing, but you're doing it at your own pace and in your own time with this book. So I hope you enjoyed this review. Again, I'm not being sponsored by Sarah Simon or anybody else. I just picked up this book and I thought it would be a fun book to share with you guys. I did buy it off of Amazon. I'll put the link below. I am not affiliated. I don't get any affiliated income if you do go purchase it. I just wanted to share it with you guys. So have a great day and enjoy this beautiful weather that we are having. At least we are in Indiana. I'm assuming that you're having beautiful weather too as we continue on in the spring season. Until next time, bye!